Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are talking about your car because your car can testify against you in court. I'm not kidding. This is crazy, and this is what's going on. Now, this is coming from NBC News, but I will actually get to where I was talking about this years ago in a moment here. Now, according to them, obviously, in recent years, investigators have realized that automobiles, especially newer ones, can be a treasure trove for digital evidence. Their onboard computers generate and store a ton of data that can be used to essentially reconstruct where a vehicle has been, what its passengers were doing. They reveal everything from location, speed, accelerations, when you're opening and closing your doors, whether texts or calls were made while the cell phone or mobile phone was connected to the infotainment system. It even knows how much you weigh due to pressure sensitivities for airbags and things like that, not to mention voice commands, call history, web history, all these kinds of things. Law enforcement agencies have been focusing their investigative efforts into two critical information sources in your car. One is the telematics system, which is essentially like the black box of the vehicle, and the other one is the infotainment system, that which you sync to your mobile phone. Now, the telematics system stores essentially the vehicle's turn-by-turn navigation, speed, acceleration, deceleration information, not to mention other clues such as when and where the lights were switched on, the doors were opened, seatbelts were put on, airbags were deployed, etc., etc., etc. The infotainment system obviously has a whole bunch of stuff such as destinations, because it integrates in with the GPS, call logs when you sync your phone, not to mention contacts lists, text messages. My car allows me to automatically text from the infotainment system, not that I use it. Emails, pictures, videos, web histories, voice commands, social media feeds. If you've got that linked through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it can also keep track of the phones that have been connected to it via USB or Bluetooth as you start creating profiles. So, for example, if you have a spouse or a kid that's a driver, you might have different profiles as he or she connects to the vehicle to do whatever they're going to do. Not to mention apps that you can install into your car. A lot of cars now have apps that you can install and basically connect to and run. Now, all of this together, this kind of data allows law enforcement investigators to reconstruct a vehicle's journey, paint a picture of the driver, not to mention passenger behavior. And so essentially in a criminal case, a sequence of doors opening and seatbelts being inserted, for example, not to mention GPS locations, could help show that a suspect had an accomplice or that they were there at the time of a crime, and on and on and on. But here's the thing. And this is what gets us in the cybersecurity community, because compared to your mobile phone or your smartphone, the security system on a car is just essentially lax. Drivers typically don't have to unlock the vehicle's infotainment system with a passcode or a fingerprint like you do when you're unlocking your smartphone. And if you don't have a passcode or a biometric on your smartphone to lock it when you're not using it, you really should. But essentially, when we're talking about the car, that means that with a warrant, law enforcement officials can basically extract incriminating evidence, text messages, calls, messages, files, locations, etc., without actually having to enter a password. They can just grab it, as opposed to your cell phone. If you remember the San Bernardino shooter back in 2000, I believe it was 16, where he had encrypted his Apple phone, and FBI went to Apple and said unlock it, and Apple said no. His car would have been much easier to hit, and if it had been syncing with his phone, we would have had a lot of information off that phone that we wouldn't have previously had. So it's an interesting vector into your life. The other thing that I want to talk about too is that we've known about these kinds of things for years. I live in Chicago, which is in the state of Illinois, and we had a case, I want to say about a decade ago or so an older car, but it had an iPass transponder. Some of you guys call it Easy Pass, automatic tolling. It's a little transponder that lets you blow through an interstate, go through the tolling without having to stop and throw in coins or make change. It just deducts from your account. There was a case where a woman was attempting to ascertain or show the court that her husband was not where he said he was going to be. And basically, they were able to pull the iPass records. So every time he was blowing through a toll booth, it would automatically go to iPass's cloud and register that he went through this toll, this toll, this toll, this toll. And so when he told his wife he was on the south side of Chicago and he ends up on the north side of Chicago, that's a problem, and therefore it was proven in court. The other problem that I've always had with vehicles is that these things are rarely updated. So, for example, I had a vehicle that was made in 2010 that I bought in 2010, and I would continuously go back to the manufacturer and say, are there any updates to the infotainment system, the head unit, to update itself, to patch itself? And the answer for about 4 to 5 years or so was no, we don't. And so how many vulnerabilities in, let's say, the Bluetooth connection and any other flaw in the operating system or app was discovered and cropped up in that time period, and now I'm driving a car that's 3 to 5 years old and 2013 to 2015 that is simply not there. It's simply not being updated. So these are things that we have to consider. So if you are sinking your vehicle and you're committing a crime, understand your car is now testifying against you. That's probably going to be a problem for a lot of people. I think we should have a lot of good controls. We should have a lot of good, pretty much security functioning in our vehicles in the same way we have our phones. Why shouldn't we have to unlock our infotainment system biometrically? Wouldn't that be another anti-theft device as well? If you couldn't unlock the infotainment center, maybe that's a problem outside, let's say, you getting carjacked. So there you are. There it is. Your car can get you in trouble. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.